Addressing corruption, answering the call. Osceola's whispers, the truth we unveil. With each podcast episode, we set sail. Unsanctioned voices, we won't be ignored. Taking through lies, we strike a chord. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Politicians trembling, they know we're awake. With facts on our side, we're here to shake. From local elections to making it clear, together we rise, let's spread the fear. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. So tune in each week, don't miss the show. John and Tom will help you know.
That's crazy. I really think that the Democrats need to stop pulling stunts like this. We need to be at peace with the Middle East. And Iran needs to stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah, why do they allow them to fly so close? There isn't somebody on the ground over there taking a look, and if they don't know who those people are, well, then we've got a problem, because, I mean, you know, he's already had 2 attempts on his life, and surely somebody is watching that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the people are trying to prove with the plane. If they're trying to make it a negative statement and that somehow Trump is selling this out to them, well, then I don't think they understand the basics of diplomacy. You know, if they're trying, on the other hand, to say that we now have a link and that there's a legitimate relationship between A Lago and Qatar, well, then that's a good thing. I don't know what their motives are, but I guess my point is that conversations, as I said before, and relationships, real relationships, is essential to diplomacy, and I can't imagine why anybody would second guess that.
I don't understand why they'd want to do something like that. As far as I know, Trump's been trying to do everything to make the country as great as he can, and I'm fully on board with that. And for someone to do that kind of thing, I think it's merely political, and I really don't understand why people don't want our country to be great again. It doesn't make sense to me.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
And then now we're going to welcome Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost. How's everybody doing? I'll talk a little bit and then ask the questions. Okay.
Well, it's so good to be here with everybody, so very high above everybody. And first off, of course, thank you so much to the Orange County firefighters for hosting us here today. Let's give them another round of applause. About 6 years ago now, firefighters saved my life. First responders saved my life here in Orange County. So there's a special place in my heart for our firefighters. So I'm gonna chat a little bit right now about what left me stuck in DC for the last 3 weeks has been, and had us debating for a 30-hour debate marathon, which is what Trump calls the big beautiful bill, but what is better described as the big ugly ass bill. Let's say that. You can put in kind of whatever words you want. But there's one thing very true about the way that Trump describes it, and it's the word big, because it is a big bill. In fact, It's one of the biggest bills Congress has ever passed in the history of our nation. There's a lot in this bill. And Senator Guillermo Smith kind of alluded to this, that the way we pass our budget, and usually we don't even call it budget, those are spending bills. The way we pass our spending bills in Congress is per committee, per jurisdiction, and everything's very specific. There's usually 11 appropriation bills that we push forward to dictate the spending of the country. But Trump wanted one big, ugly bill, and that's what he got. It's one big bill that has drastic impacts for our community here in Central Florida, across the entire state of Florida, and across the entire nation. I'm going to chat a little bit about some specific things in the bill. I'm going to talk about the way we fought against it and where it's going next, and then I'll open up for any questions. That sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot to talk about in this bill, but I just want to get some of the top things that come to mind. And there's two things to note. It's what is being cut and why it's being cut. So what's being cut? We know that this is, number one, the way we like to describe this bill, based in facts, is this bill is the largest transfer of wealth from the working poor, the working class, and the middle class to the ultra wealthy and rich in the history.
What lies? Complete, total lies. You know, you have to replace what he's saying, John. He's saying that the working class and the poor, you change that to government, and then he's got it right. It's the biggest transfer of wealth from the government back to the people, back to who it belongs to, not from the poor. Get out of here.
Well, you said it in the prep. The poor is the government.
Yeah,
The government
yeah.
is the poor. All right.
Yep.
The government has no money, and you're 100% right. This is a transfer of wealth from the poor government back to the American people, where the money was not only generated to begin with, but where it belongs.
Yep.
I mean, obviously he's got things ass backwards in more way than one. So
Well, he was
what do you
speaking to a
expect from this
room with like what, 20 people? I mean,
I thought that was a recreation of the movie Cocoon for a minute. There's 8 people, all of them over the age of 80.
yeah,
I don't think that the Democrats have a handle on what's important to people today.
no.
And so that whole speech, for some reason, it's fooling the elderly. And what we're seeing in politics is that the elderly are being fooled by all this stuff. That's why you look at all these protests. It's either young broke kids that live in their parents' basement who will get paid to be there as professional protesters, or it's some 75 or 80-year-old who was protesting bras in the 60s.
Yeah.
But there's like nothing in between, except for the craziest of all, the liberal doctorate women who think that castrating kids is normal. And so that's their like 3 population sets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a big fan of Maxwell Frost. Really, everyone named Maxwell has a problem with them because you got Scott Maxwell with the Orlando Sentinel, you got Maxwell Frost, and there's very little difference between them,
No,
you know? So,
not much difference at all.
absolutely. So, welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. Yes, we did not do Unsanctioned America. There's all kinds of stuff. We're going to come back to you with the Unsanctioned America in a couple of days. But there's so much stuff locally, and we've been in conversations with a lot of people on all these important issues for Floridians, and so that's our first responsibility, and that's what we're going to do first. So that's why we're doing Unsanctioned America. So welcome. I am former school board member John Arguello. Over here is my great friend, Citizen Tom Lord, and we have a great, great show for you tonight. We're going to try to get to it as quickly as possible.
It's a lot.
There's all kinds of great news. Yeah, there's all kinds of big news.
Buckle
Some
up.
of it is entertaining, some of it is terrible. Oh, we didn't talk about that plane over A Lago, and it's just the kind of strange video.
How is it that Democrats can fly a plane that close to the president's home and there's no problem? That's my
Why
question.
didn't they
How?
shoot it down? I would have been perfectly fine if they had said, "Listen, this guy came into a restricted airspace, and that's it. That's all she wrote." Right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be too hard to
And
shoot a.
that happened after President Trump's trip to the Middle East. they were
Well, more
trying to make
importantly, it
fun of the
happened
fact
after
that they
two
gifted him a
two
plane. I mean,
2 assassination attempts.
yeah.
I mean, at what point are they gonna protect him? Because you just can't allow little private planes flying above, Mar-a-Lago. That's crazy.
Yeah, you don't know what that plane is carrying. You don't know what it's doing. Yeah, it has a banner, a supposedly funny banner on the back of it, but you really don't know.
It couldn't have been that funny because nobody was reporting on that,
No,
right?
no.
So it was like
People that
really
saw
all it
it were
was.
were like, I don't know what the point is. What, like, just more ridiculousness from the Florida Democratic Party.
That's all they have. Was it the actual party or was it a private person?
No one knows. No one
No
knows.
one knows.
But I
Okay, I'm sure we'll
imagine
find.
that if it's a private person with that much money, that they would be smart enough to find better things to do with their money than fly that plane, over
I mean, I
Mar-a-Lago.
don't know. I don't know that the Democrats have that much money because there's probably a lot of private people have more money than the Democratic primary because those people they have. Let's see, you have the people who get allowance from their parents and living in the basement. They're not
Yeah.
going to make contributions. You have these. I mean, some wealthy elderly people, but most of them are living off of Social Security because those are Democrat voters, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, I mean, who's going to be the doctorate ladies with blue hair?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, they have a lot of money. I don't think the Democrat Party is breaking any records on fundraising.
No, no, not at all. Not at all.
Well, let's do a quick prayer. Let's get into the stories. I'm not even going to read the headlines because we got too many stories to go through, but this should be an entertaining show. Some of it was great stories, some of it not so great stories. And then we're breaking big, big, big news in the state of Florida, which I think a lot of people have been asking for. That's going to happen. So stay tuned for that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Lord, wow, these are great times to be alive because you're giving us the opportunity to do our biblical responsibility, civic responsibility, and that is to lead people back to you, to live in a world which is just, to live and embody your scripture on a daily basis. And we hope that all Americans come together and bring about a governing model that respects that respects that our rights come from you. There's a reason why that's the most important aspect of our government and why our founding fathers used biblical principles to write our Constitution. So let's inspire us, Lord, to do the right thing and continue to do the right thing and to fight for this country, which is so important to the whole world. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's get into it. John, there's all these activist judges across the state of Florida, actually across the nation,
Yeah.
and they keep getting involved where they shouldn't be. And here is another one right here.
Well, it
Now, a
started
major
at the
social
federal level.
media law in Florida
it
meant to
did.
keep kids offline is now on hold. A federal judge says the law likely violates First Amendment rights. The judge says regulating children's online activity is a job for parents, not the state. His ruling blocks the law for now, which would have banned social media accounts for kids under 14 and require parental consent for 14 to 15-year-olds.
Now, I get what the judge is saying. Absolutely, it is the parents' job to keep their kids off of social media. But how many homes do we have right now where the parents are truly active in their child's life? You know what I mean?
Hey, the crazy thing for me isn't necessarily this case, because there's the worst one that we're going to talk about in a minute. It's just that we don't know when the court is behaving itself as an activist, as a contrarian to the legislature, or they're actually protecting our rights. And that's the role of the Supreme Court, of the courts, is to protect us. They're supposed to make sure that the laws that the legislature is passing and that the executive office is executing is in line with our Constitution, state and federal. And we just don't know. So I'm not as offended by this case. If this is a legitimate First Amendment right lawsuit, great. The court is doing what it's supposed to do. But the fact is, what we're watching at the federal level is courts just say, no, you can't do that. Trump does something. Oh, you can't do that. And it's a tactic. And what we don't want to see is our Florida courts turning into tactical battlefields that are not meant to win the war. They're only meant to cause a battlefield effect to prevent the conservative majority's initiative. That's not what we vote for. That's not what inspires good governance. That's certainly not what inspires good citizenship. So we need to prevent the court, and they need to, anytime they do it, anytime they violate the sacred duty that they have, they need to pay for it. And the public needs to be very loud and clear that we do not want activist judges. We want people to uphold the law. That's their job.
Yeah. And I think that's what bothers me about this story a lot, John, is that it's just another judge getting involved. It's like, just stay out of it, Anyway,
Pretty much.
Yeah, moving on. This judge is deciding whether he's going to hold State Attorney General James Uthmeier in contempt. Can you believe this?
All new at 6, immigration law backlash. Earlier this year, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis passed a new state law making it a crime for people illegally in the U.S. to enter or re-enter the state. A federal judge put a temporary block on that, but now the Attorney General is accused of encouraging law enforcement to violate that order.
Now, there was a hearing today on whether the Attorney General is in contempt of court. CBS News Miami's Bree Buckley is joining us live from the federal courthouse in downtown Miami with the latest on the case. Bree?
Well, I sat in that hearing that lasted about 2 hours. The Attorney General was not there, but there was a lot of back and forth between his representation, the judge, as well as the plaintiffs. It's pretty simple. The defense says that his message was misunderstood, while the plaintiffs say that the message was pretty clear. Outside of the federal courthouse on Thursday afternoon, calls for democracy over a new state immigration law that's been temporarily blocked.
I hope that the end result is that the state will understand that immigration is a under federal jurisdiction. It's not something that the state needs to be worried about.
That rally held before a hearing in front of a federal judge to determine if Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier was in contempt of court for violating the judge's ruling that put a temporary restraining order on State Bill 4C. That bill enacted 2 new state crimes for illegally entering or re-entering the state. The temporary block bans all Florida law enforcement agencies from enforcing that law, but the judge says the AG violated her ruling in a letter sent to police agencies, saying he disagreed with the ruling, filed a briefing, and he could not prevent them from enforcing the initial law, saying, quote, where there remains no judicial order that properly restrains you from doing so, end quote. In the courtroom, the AG's representation argued that his letter was taken out of context, basically misunderstood, and there's been no evidence of any arrests since the ruling, though dozens of arrests have been reported, including a U.S. citizen. The plaintiffs say the message was clear.
It's inviting police officers to make arrests and saying that the judge's order does not properly bind them. The Attorney General knows that's not true. The court order absolutely binds them.
The judge heard both sides and says she plans to take both into consideration before making a final decision on if Uthmeier is in contempt or not. David Weinstein, former state and federal prosecutor, weighing in on what it could look like if she rules that he is.
He's found to be in civil contempt. There can be a fine, potentially a referral to the Florida bar because he's licensed to practice as a lawyer here in Florida. If the judge finds that this amounted to criminal contempt, she'd refer the matter over to the U.S. Attorney's Office for further prosecution.
Now, I did speak to the Attorney General's representation, those lawyers today as that hearing wrapped up. They said no comment at this time, no word on how long it will take the judge to make her decision.
I don't know. I don't like this at all.
No, not
I
at
think
all.
that this is not like telling somebody that I'm here to protect your First Amendment rights. This is going to battle with the executive office because questionable reasons, potentially.
Yes.
I have not read the brief. I don't know what the case is. We heard that description. Obviously, the news is not a great source for news, but nonetheless, this is. I don't think that it's the courtroom's job to combat the initiatives of the administration in power.
Yeah. No, it's
That's
not.
a mistake. It's been a mistake at the federal level, and Republicans didn't do that when Joe Biden was president, although they should have.
Yeah.
Because clearly that was unconstitutional throughout 90% of his administration.
Well, we'll see what happens there, John. I'm sure there's going to be more information coming soon. All right. So moving on, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh no," to this UF presidential pick, but we don't have to worry about that anymore because Santa Ono has been rejected.
We are following a news alert out of Orlando where the Florida Board of Governors just rejected the University of Florida's pick for its next president. The decision followed a contentious kind of confirmation hearing where the board questioned Santa Ono, the former president of the University of Michigan, about his past support for diversity programs. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank is in the newsroom with the latest for us. Evan, bring us up to speed.
Yeah, and Haley, this vote just came down. It was a 10-6 vote against Santa Ono during this 4-hour meeting. It became clear that numerous members of the Board of Governors had significant problems with his view of the role of diversity in education. And so this is a rebuke of UF's board, which just days ago voted unanimously to approve Dr. Santa Ono. Now, even though he said he ended Michigan's DEI program while he was president there, he has a history of advocating for the import of diversity in education, and he faced tough questions from numerous board members concerning diversity programs, his views of anti-Semitism, and also of climate change. He said he no longer believes that programs focused on racial diversity are the right answer for society. Evidently, that was not enough, though, for the board members. Numerous board members asked pointed questions looking at his past statements on diversity programs, as well as his reaction to the October 7th attacks on Israel by Hamas. He said he forcefully condemned them. Now, he also said his goal was to make UF a leader in AI programs and keep them a leader in bioengineering. Here is just a very small sampling of what was a very long meeting.
Now, I want to say really clearly that I will act decisively at Florida as I did at Michigan, protecting Jewish students. It's not a partisan issue. It is something that's moral and deeply personal to me. Second, we've talked a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I support fully the decision to end DEI programs.
He was tested on anti-Semitism at Michigan, and he failed miserably. Now, this is not about encampments. This is not about refusing to listen to Jewish students when their civil rights were being violated. This is about whether or not he understands, and I don't think he does, the consequences of that inaction. We saw this in Boulder, Colorado on Sunday.
The governor, who has had a huge impact on how universities in Florida have moved away from diversity programs, largely steered clear of this one, at least in public. He said the guidelines had been set very clearly in Florida by the governing boards that are now filled with his conservative appointees when it comes to diversity programs. Now, he said even if a pro-DEI person were to take a leadership position, he argued they would be hamstrung by current state policy. Now,
yep, absolutely. But, Santa Ono, he was for DEI before he wasn't. And I think he just wanted to move from out of Michigan to sunny Florida. John, I don't know what he would think.
I mean, I would trade Michigan
when
for
you
Florida
want to
any
leave
day of the
Michigan, I
week.
mean, really.
Who doesn't want to get out of Michigan half of the year? But I mean, and not only that, you're represented by crazy people in Michigan.
Yeah.
So forget it. Of course he wants to get out, but you know what? That you can't. It's good that you can't escape this. Now, again, I think that the reason that this happened is because they're fighting with the governor.
Yes.
I don't think that there's any other real reason, right? They did Cessna. They put a whole bunch of other liberals at the head of colleges, right? Yeah. Now, Manny Diaz, who was the former education commissioner, he went and he got the presidency of a university. But he was also a senator. They know him, they respect him, they like him. That's their friend, you know. So of course he got approved. But if this guy had been James Uthmeyer, they might not have let him get in.
Yeah,
it's possible, right? And we know that Uthmeyer is a pretty conservative guy, right? In my opinion, he's like a JD Vance, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think he's shown us that since, you know, becoming Attorney General.
yeah, without the protection of the governor, because look how he's getting attacked, right? And they're also the governor's in his own war, so of course he's not going to be removed or anything like that. But the point is that there's a lot to lose for him, and he's hard charging.
Yeah.
So even if he's in there temporarily, he's having an impact on behalf of conservatives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, John. So this report is finding potential ethics violations by Representative Sheila Sherrif McCormick.
This morning, a report finding potential ethics violations by U.S. Congresswoman Sheila Sherrif McCormick. The report from the House Ethics Committee outlines allegations that include questionable payments from her congressional office, improper campaign finance reporting, and whether she granted special favors to friends when requesting funding. Now, despite these allegations, the Congresswoman has not been charged with any wrongdoing, and the investigation remains ongoing. Some of the allegations, if true, though, would violate federal law. In a statement to the Sun Sentinel, Sherrif McCormick says that she will cooperate with this investigation.
I don't think she has a choice, John.
Yeah, they're going to be checking Snuffeluffegus for what she's got in her suitcases at this point.
I don't think anybody is surprised by this. I mean, you know.
No, nobody's surprised. I'd be surprised if anything happens to her as a result.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because we know that they don't like to prosecute their own.
Absolutely. All right. So this one just blows me away. Flip-flopper and backstabber David Jolly has decided he's going to take a shot at running for governor of Florida.
In the last hour, a former Florida congressman is officially in the race for governor.
Yeah, David Jolly is switching sides, now running as a Democrat.
Again.
And Jolly, who talked one-on-one with West 2 News political reporter Greg Fox, says he believes voters here in the Sunshine State are less interested in political parties, and they have more interest in candidates who want to solve the affordability crisis and real problems, he says, that are affecting people's lives.
I'm for lower corporate taxes, but more gun safety legislation. That makes me on the right on an issue, on the left on another.
Jolly.
I think most of us don't care where on the left-right spectrum we are if we're just working together to solve problems. A economy for all people,
care.
A government that works, and lifting everybody
We don't care
up.
what party you're a member of.
Jolly
we care
says
if you're on the
talk
left
of
or the
First
right.
Lady Casey DeSantis possibly entering the race would just mean an extension of Governor Ron DeSantis' culture wars. Republican South Florida Congressman Byron Donalds has officially put his name in the race. He's entered as well. Independent State Senator Jason Pizzo, a former Democrat, is also in the race for the governor's office.
Now, you know, Jolly says that it doesn't matter, that people don't really care what party you're in. Then why did you, David Jolly, change parties again and become a Democrat?
Why did you switch?
Yeah.
So let me take a break to just say we're at a lot of people watching. And it just goes to show how much stuff is going on in the state of Florida. So thank you so much for watching. We love you. Of course, like and share the show. So here's, I'm having some connectivity issues, it looks like. So hopefully it comes. Okay. So this is really interesting because you have Donald, who looks like the minute he's going to run, it looks like away with the governor. You have now David Jolly running as a Democrat, who's not even a Democrat.
No.
Right?
He's
a rhino.
Yes, John, he has switched parties before. This is not the first time. He lost to Charlie Crist in the past when Charlie Crist was running as a Democrat. He's another famous flip-flopper in the state of Florida. Then Jolly decided he was going to become part of the Serve America Party. Now, you've probably never heard of that, and I've never heard of that before now. But yes, he was part of the Serve America Party. Then he became a Republican again. Now he's switching to Democrat again. So, this guy is a career politician.
He wants to be, at least.
Yeah.
He's not doing great,
somebody
but he
don't
wants
want.
to be.
Somebody
Yeah.
you don't want.
He's a trans politician, right? So he's constantly pretending to be something he's not. But the funny thing, one thing he is for 100%, David Jolly is 100% irrelevant. He's got as much chance of winning this race right now as I do.
Yeah.
So thank you, David Jolly, for participating in this event. Here's your 8th place trophy. There's only 7 people in the race. Congratulations. But here's what makes it funny. John Morgan is running in the race.
Yeah, that was the big ghost that they didn't talk about.
And he's running. So John Morgan is running as a, what was it? Capitalist Party. Constitution Party. Capitalist Party.
They decided, well, they haven't decided on a name yet. He said he was going to have a contest to decide the name.
He's running his bullshit party. Okay. Democrat light. Because that's what you get. Wait, no. Democrat plus weed. Demo weed. That's their party. Demo weed. Right? Because not only he's running to be president so he can sign the legislation so that he can sell weed.
Yep.
Okay. So that's John Morgan's thing. He wants to be able to sue people at will, and he wants to be able to smoke as much weed as Nikki Fried does before she makes a public announcement or speech, which is a hell of a lot of weed, apparently.
He would not pass the drug test if they had one. You were exactly correct.
If Nikki Weed and him get caught with you in an elevator, you won't pass a drug test either.
No.
So, okay, so we have John Morgan. You have Byron Donalds. You have David Jolly, who has no jolly chance. And then you have, who else? There was somebody else.
Possibly Casey DeSantis and Pizzo.
Okay, possibly Casey DeSantis gets in.
Pizzo.
Yeah, Pizzo as an independent or MPA. I don't know. He's running as an MPA. So the Democrats have pretty much less of a chance to win the governor's mansion as Gillum after he was caught, butt exposed, toes down. That's the Democrats' chance of having the governor's mansion after the elections.
Yeah.
Here's a hiccup. There is a new party, which was this week founded.
Yeah.
Right? And it is a right party. It's a right-leaning party. So we're going to talk about that soon. Tom will tell us when.
Yeah.
But that's going to be possibly. So now what if this other party puts a governor's candidate into the race? And now they're splitting right-leaning candidates because there's a lot of people that are upset with the governor. It's basically what's happening with Elon Musk and President Trump is happening here in Florida between the legislature and the governor.
Yeah.
Except people respect both Elon and Trump. It's sad to see them fight. Everybody thinks that the legislature and the governor's mansion are idiots for their fight. And that's a big differentiation.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that coming up. Okay. So
Elon Musk is learning the hard way, and he's getting trumped right now. His personal wealth has taken a huge hit since he started on his tirade on X against President Trump. And, I respect what he did as far as free speech and taking over the X platform for us so that we can actually talk and discuss things the way that we want to. But for him to do what he's been doing the last couple of days, some people say it's political theater. We're getting off subject, but anyway, I'll wrap it up with this.
Yeah.
You don't go up against Trump because when you do, you lose, just like many have learned.
Well, I'm just going to comment briefly. This is not a fight that they should have had in public. This is two gigantic, stags beating each other up for no good reason. At the end of the day, the government is their responsibility. It's Trump's responsibility primarily but the country is their responsibility. It's all of our responsibility, and that's far more important. The American people are far more important than the egos of these two giants.
Yeah. Yep.
And they need to get it together. This is stupid. This is stupid stuff. The insults and whatever. Listen, when Trump makes fun of Pelosi, nobody gives a damn. She is a drunk, crazy lady.
Yes.
Right? She's been there for 50 years abusing every American. Elon Musk and Trump, we accept their eccentricities because they put the country first. And the minute that they don't put the country first, it's like that saying, you don't want to meet your heroes.
Yeah.
So I hope that they get themselves composed and put the country first.
Yeah.
Because they're not only are they stronger together, but they're both right on some issues. And I'll just say very quickly, I believe Trump is 100% right on tariffs all day long. I think that the tariffs that he's placed aren't even enough. And I would have played harder ball because it would have forced him to the table earlier because the Democrats are chomping at the bit to say that he's a failure on it. And Elon Musk is right on the spending. Now, I wouldn't say that the rhinos that in the House that are complaining about spending now, when they've been accepting the spending on everybody forever, just because they complain about it and they still vote on it, and now you're going to tell Trump no. Those guys I don't trust. Because it's for them, it's not, I think it's more about their identity than it is about the future of the United States.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be ego-driven themselves, and they would be supporting Trump, and they would go and do all that stuff and get that crap out of the bill. The bill is too big.
Yeah.
So so let's not watch our heroes fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's still a chance for them to get that crap out of the bill. But the sad fact is, if they don't get this bill passed, a lot of the promises that President Trump made to the people are not going to happen, or at least not.
I don't
going
accept
to
that.
happen for a while.
They better, if they fail to pass this bill, then they better make Big Beautiful Bill version B 2.0 and bring it back and vote on it and make it happen. That needs to be their priority. Otherwise, they need to all be tarred and feathered.
Yeah, no, I'm
so
100%.
I don't accept that. Yeah, if the fact that they say, "Oh well, this is it," or that's like a guy trying to sell you a car.
The thing is,
I just bought a car. So
Elon Musk right now is on the side of,
they're on his side.
Lack of a better
Those
term,
guys are his junior. They're his junior. They're on his side,
and
because they don't like
Democrats. And these are the guys. I refer to them as the simps, and I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but I've always called them that since the presidential campaign. But these are guys like Thomas Massey, like Rand Paul, Chip Roy.
Here's the thing: these guys are credible.
Go up against Trump.
These guys are credible when they're talking, when they're saying what they are about spending, and we're talking about America stuff. So we got to get off of this.
Yeah.
But the fact is, they've been voting. They've been there for a long ass time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've never heard. I mean, yeah, I get you complained about it, but you voted on these continuing resolutions before.
Yep.
Maybe Paul is not as hypocritical as these other guys.
Yeah.
But these other guys are just. I'll see it when I believe it.
All right. Let's get back to
Florida.
Let's move on. Let's do it. All right. So here we go. Over in Palm Beach County, John, their county commissioners decided to vote to end DEI programs in their county.
Palm Beach County commissioners that could end the county's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts.
WPTV's Ethan Stein found out why county officials asked commissioners to make a change. He's joining us now live. Ethan?
John, this vote follows direction from the Trump administration, which threatened to pull federal funding from local governments who are not compliant with its guidance regarding DEI initiatives, claiming those programs are unlawful. They also say they plan to investigate governments considering race when making decisions. Those concerns led to Palm Beach County staff to recommend suspending portions of the county's Equal Business Opportunity Program. The suspensions apply to anything making distinctions on sex or race. This includes the county's Minority Business and Women Minority Business Program. One business in the program is Earthology Consulting Services. Its owner told me the program gave her access to networking events, help applying for county projects, and an incentive for larger companies who include her companies in their bid. She told us the program that could go away helped her company get looked at for their qualifications rather than her appearance.
These programs really helped minority business owners get out there. The program's incentive was really just giving us a ladder over the chasm so we can get across.
Commissioners also remove gender identity protection. Staff say they believe the word sex in their anti-discrimination statement will guarantee those same protections. Commissioners could also remove the county's DEI office, but county staff say the office was never staffed. Staff told commissioners they believe these decisions will reduce legal liability and preserve the county's ability to keep federal funding. Honey?
You know, the office was never staffed because they're all work from home people, you know.
So Palm Beach, just so that you know, is a Democrat majority county. There's about 900, just over 900,000 voters, registered voters in Palm Beach. It's about 300,000 Republicans, about 330,000 Republicans, and about 280,000 independents or MPAs and whatever, everybody else. So this is a Democrat-leaning county that just killed their DEI. Why? Because they need that federal money. Yep. So don't mess around. All these people that are messing around, trying to fight, when it comes down to it, they need those federal dollars because they're so fat and inefficient that they need so much money to carry on with the waste.
So,
we need that Florida Doge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, here's the thing. DeSantis,
that's every county.
Every county. DeSantis should have established a Doge and then sent that bill to the legislature to get that passed. He should have done that. And then it doesn't matter who's responsible for it if they don't do a job. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the legislature wanted a Doge because if they did, they'd all be finished.
Yeah. All right, John. So before we move to the Central Florida segment and what everybody is waiting for, why don't you open this up and introduce this next video package about the newest party on the block?
So,
or should I say
two
the first
gentlemen,
party on the block?
Yeah, the first party. So two gentlemen started a brand new party, and it is called the America First Party of Florida. And the genesis of the party is essentially conservatives are good people. They don't want to be involved in the decrepitness of the Republican Party because the Republican Party is failing to do what we as conservatives expect. Now, I've been a Republican for a long time. I was a registered Republican when I was 18. I was a registered independent for these reasons that I'm complaining about the Republican Party now. I was a Democrat for a very short period of time before they decided to start castrating kids. But I've always been extremely conservative and traditional. So my biggest frustration with the Republican Party is twofold. Number one, they fail to do the right thing. I think whenever there's an opportunity to do the right thing, it seems like they fail to do it. And number two, they're just as corrupt as the Democrats.
Yeah.
So there's a supermajority. There's no reason that we can't have the state that Republicans and the conservatives are clamoring for because we have supermajorities in both chambers. So here's my commentary. This is my announcement. Roll the video.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Arguello, the newly appointed chairman of the America First Party of Florida. Many of you know me as the outspoken anti-corruption school board member from Osceola County. while others recognize me as a dedicated Republican who has fought for many Republican candidates and causes since 2012. Unfortunately, the party that I belong to for more than a decade and a half has failed to deliver on its promises to be better, to stand on the moral high ground, and to uphold the values that inspire voters to support Republicans in the first place. While conservative ideals have driven Republican victories across Florida, the Republican Party and supermajority in Tallahassee, in both the State House and the Senate, has consistently disappointed conservative voters. Rather than leading with integrity, they have embarrassed Republicans with corruption, election interference, and self-serving agendas. The Republican Party has had the greatest opportunity to reclaim the moral high ground and prove it stands for the values it claims to represent in 100 years. Yet as the Democratic Party struggles with basic truths about identity and sex, Republican leadership in the legislature refuses to act with honor or integrity. The Republican Party of Florida interferes at every level of local decision-making, blocking communities from electing their own leadership, manipulating Republican Executive Committee elections, and distorting primary elections. They rely on dark money and shady operatives, tactics that disgust the average voter. Millions of Floridians who fled the Democratic Party seeking to protect their children from harmful ideologies now find themselves equally disillusioned with the Republican Party, which refuses to take decisive action even with supermajorities in both chambers. Florida's voters, its American families, have made their priorities clear. They demand leadership that represents their interests. Yet Republican lawmakers continue to seek permission from lobbyists and special interests before passing legislation that does nothing but frustrate and undermine the will of the people. The reality breaks my heart, but it has also strengthened my resolve. That is why I made the difficult decision to leave the Republican Party and join the America First Party of Florida. I urge you to do the same. Together, we must send a message to both Democrats and Republicans. The American family and the Floridian are not for sale. We will not stand by while our state is auctioned off to the highest bidder. The American family and Floridians demand transparency, honesty, and integrity from our elected officials. Voters deserve action. Leaders who prioritize their interests over special interests. Leaders who will protect the community and the American family, not protect lobbyists. The America First Party stands for the American family. The America First Party stands for Florida. And the America First Party stands for America. I invite you to join us, whether you're a Democrat who still believes in common sense and traditional family values, or a Republican who is just tired of the corruption and weak leadership of the Republican Party. Let's stand together and put America first. You can register today on the web by visiting your local supervisor of elections office and updating your voter registration card. America First will be at the top of the drop-down list on the web. Thank you, God bless you, and welcome to a party that truly represents you.
Oh, we might have to add someone else to that opening montage there, John. I don't mean to laugh at this because it's not funny. It's really sad, and this has made the national news cycle now. So it's not just here. It's everywhere now. You can just Google the name Marcos Lopez, and it's everywhere, anywhere you look. And I know that everybody has been watching every news report, following this as closely as possible. What's happening with the former sheriff of Osceola County. And what we're going to do is we're just going to watch a little bit of him going before the judge this morning, because the feds lay out what they're looking for, what they're going to hold him to. So we can comment as we watch this, but this was from this morning as former Sheriff Marcos Lopez went before the judge in this case in Lake County.
Could you tell me your name, please?
Marcos R. Lopez.
Mr. Lopez, you were here this morning in Lake County case number 2025 CF 1479. It's a warrant that was issued for you for 1 count of racketeering and 1 count of conspiracy to commit racketeering. Attorney for statewide, I believe, is here. Would you like to be heard as to the setting of bond and any bond conditions? I know you filed a motion about the source of funds today, so if you would include that in your remarks, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, Your Honor. Panayota Papakos for the Office of Statewide Prosecution. As far as conditions, the state would be seeking an electronic GPS monitor as a condition of any release. We would ask that the court order the defendant to turn over his passport to the clerk of court. We would ask that he forfeit any and all firearms in his possession. And further, Your Honor, at this time, the defendant is charged with 2 first-degree felonies. So the state would be seeking a $600,000 bond as to each count for a total of $1.2 million. And I will go into essentially the criteria that the court has previously announced. First, the nature and the circumstances of the offenses charged justify this amount of a bond in this case. The state has filed an affidavit. I believe that the clerk filed it in separate sections because it is 255 pages. And so I provided it to Your Honor's judicial assistant this morning. And just some highlights that the allegations in that affidavit, the detail an extreme breach of public trust, the circumstances surrounding his misuse of office as the sheriff of Osceola County are very serious. Again, there's direct evidence in that affidavit of ongoing illegal enterprise. The weight of the evidence includes that the defendant obtained between, at the very least, $600,000 to $700,000 since 2020 from this illegal enterprise in cash payments. There is evidence in the affidavit of a wire transfer to a bank account he controlled through a fictitious business name. There's direct text message evidence from both WhatsApp and cell phone applications of his involvement in this enterprise dating back to 2019. Beginning on page 110 through page 148 of the affidavit, there are numerous text messages from the defendant directly to co-conspirators. The first co-conspirator being Ms. Zhang, also goes by Kate. Those direct text messages evidence that
she's got involvement with a lot of politicians
even prior to election, indicating he was very respected in his community to facilitate the illegal enterprise. There's screenshots of slot machines and things of that nature in those text messages. Of note, I would direct the court to page 175, where the defendant was actively sourcing new locations for illegal businesses to come in from Lake County to Osceola County. Wow. That began in 2021. Wow. And then further on, beginning on page 229, there are text messages between the defendant and co-conspirator Krishna D. O'Karen. Your Honor can see some of the affidavit is redacted, but there are photos of active law enforcement officers that have responded to those locations. I'm sorry, there's some audio interference. There are photos evidencing the defendant's direct involvement.
It might have been Lopez's cellmate saying, "Come back to bed."
Potentially obstruct criminal investigation into these businesses in Osceola County. So that would be the first 2 factors: the nature and circumstances, and then the weight of the evidence. Again, evidenced in that detailed affidavit that was completed both by HSI task officers and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So there was 2 co-affiants in that case, with the understanding that this is a joint investigation. The defendant does not have any ties to Lake County that we are aware of. He has been suspended from office by the executive order of the governor. And moving on to subsection F, the source of funds, the state has filed a motion this morning, and I've provided it to the judicial assistant in its entirety. But essentially, this is a motion where we would be asking the court to inquire into the source of any funds that the defendant would use to post bail, or that you'd be using for collateral, essentially asking the court that prior to posting that the defendant show that these are not funds derived from any illegal enterprise or any illegal proceeds. And I would rely on the written motion essentially that the statute allows the court to conduct that inquiry. And so we would ask that any release be stayed until the defendant meets his burden of showing that those funds are from non-criminal sources.
Wow. So they're basically saying that he's got to prove that this isn't the money that he's attained from these illegal casinos to post his bond, John. And very interesting, they did mention 2 of the co-conspirators that were involved in this with the former sheriff of Osceola County, and should I say disgraced at this point? I don't know, but the former sheriff of Osceola County, Kate Zhang, one of the co-conspirators. John, have you heard that name before?
Well, I know that I know that there was an involvement, but I think that Julius may be her broker, Julius Melendez.
Really?
So, or he was at some point or something. I know that he was trying. I don't know. I know that they had a real estate relationship at some point. Wow. So I had met her. It wasn't very productive meeting or anything. You know, she was like my impression was that she was like a con artist. You know, that she was,
well, I guess your impression was right, John.
Yeah, I
mean,
she was just like very, and you don't know, maybe there was like a cultural thing, right? A business culture, you know, like Americans do business a certain way, and you expect for, you know, something, but and they're way more of a hustle, transactional, right?
Is she a Chinese citizen?
I would think so. I don't know. I mean, this was several years ago, so many years ago. But yeah, I think that she probably is.
Wow.
And here's the thing. I'm gonna say this, and this is something that you guys can probably all imagine me. By the way, I think that we have broken the record, our previous record.
Wow.
Of viewers. After those conversations, I was telling another friend of mine who was trying to get an introduction with her because she's a business person. She had money, and you know, people who want to do business, you know, they want to be around other people have money. I was telling, I was like, dude, stay away, because my vibe was that she's not good. She's like a spy or something. And I literally used the word. She's like some kind of CCP spy. There's something off. And I had the conversation, and the guy was like, Arguello, you're always, you know, you're like super skeptical and suspicious of and whatever. And I'm like, dude, listen to me. Stay away from that one. Stay away from that one. I'm telling you, spy, something. There's something really bad. And of course, they didn't listen to me.
Right.
So it is what it is. I tried to tell people, you know, like, because I just knew that my spidey sense was working on that one. And thank God that I did not get involved in any way.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they said that this has been going on since 2019.
Yeah, that's a hell of a long time for people to be aware of this going on and not to have acted on it.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. We let him run for office twice. Yep. So if they knew, now listen, at the same time, I also want to disclose this. First of all, if he's guilty, I feel terrible for his family. Yeah. I met his son. I never want to see, I hate the impact that these kind of things have on kids, right? Like, that's my number one thing. Like, I always immediately think about the kids, having worked with guardian ad litem and just the situation of having kids ripped away from their parents. I hate that. But at the same time, obviously, he needs to face justice.
Yes.
Now, who knew about this? and win.
Yeah,
More
that's what I
importantly,
want to know.
more
Who
importantly,
knew?
who knew? More importantly, when is Brandon Arrington going to get in jail for all the stuff that he does to the community? These guys are professional con artists. These guys get jobs that they don't really have to do anything. So because of the votes that they take, and that happens. That happens. I suspect that completely and thoroughly. And why? Because I was offered the same thing. As a politician, I was offered, hey, why don't you take this job? You just got to mind your P's and Q's, keep your mouth shut, leave Dr. Face alone, pick your 3-pet project, do this. Oh, I think that you and I can work on something, and no, I don't want to do any of that stuff with you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather lose my election, which I did. And, but this is what these guys are doing. They can't help themselves from doing the wrong thing. Right. And we saw Kazmar Shaw beats up some elementary kid, apparently, or allegedly. The other guy, allegedly, who I won't mention, stealing money from his HOA or whatever, for his campaign. But take all those things, and it does not amount to anything close to what the Ricky Booth and Erica Booth and Mary Jane Arrington and Brandon Arrington in terms of corruption. And look at and I'll remind, listen, let's move on to something else. Just look at the conflict of interest that Clarence Hackerthad, as chairman of the board, his wife represented 6 out of 11 land deals. We had 11 land deals worth more than $100 million or whatever it was. And she was the lawyer representing the seller or the buyer on more than half of them. And the chairman sitting in the seat at the center of the dais looking at his wife. Now, of course, he filled out the proper disclosures, but that's still a hell of a conflict of interest and a hell of a message to tell the community that if you really want to sell your land to the school district, because we got cash and we control the votes, and use my wife as your attorney.
Yeah.
It's very hard for anybody to make the case that message wasn't the one that was being told. And that was the first. Please remove John Arguello, Governor DeSantis from office.
Yeah.
And that's what they do to you. But they allow things like this to happen. And the only reason that I think that Sherrif Lopez got caught, I don't know, because it was federal, but nonetheless, the only reason I think that somebody dropped a dime on Lopez was because they didn't like him.
Yeah.
But he fits in just right in Osceola County, the most corrupt county in the state of Florida.
Yes, and I think that this case proves that, John, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, we talked before the show, and we discussed the implications of Sherrif Lopez going to jail. He is in a cell by himself. They're keeping him away from the Gen Pop. There are some people hoping that him being arrested is going to lead to other dominoes falling. And
I am.
yeah,
Listen,
I mean,
hey.
we are. Yeah, absolutely. But the
Lopez-
likelihood of that actually happening, though.
He's not suicidal. He should have taken the time to say, I'm not suicidal. That's what our good friend Angelica was saying. Like, I hope he announces that he's not suicidal, because that guy probably has a whole bunch of information on all these other crooked politicians in Osceola.
Yeah. But
So,
what's the likelihood that he's going to speak about that or
I don't
talk
know,
about
man.
that?
Are we ever
get a
blessed like
deal?
that? I mean, that would be like, what a vindication.
Yeah.
Right? Throw Mary Jane in jail for stealing elections, for violating the statute elections law multiple times, for lying about it on TV, and for cheating the elections. I believe she did. I suspect that all day long. But remove her for the 2 times that she violated state law. Get rid of Erica Booth. I mean, that woman can't speak. She cannot speak. She can't rub 2 words together and then put a period at the end. She's a moron. and they pay millions of dollars to get her elected. Why? It's so that she'll vote the way that she's told. That, to me, is corruption. And that people should get thrown in jail for that kind of corruption, because you're elected to represent the people. So when you don't, and when you're owned by lobbyists, and her family got $5 million from the state. I mean, look, if we talk more corruption, right? Fred Hawkins. Everything that happened with Fred Hawkins was super corrupt, between the toxic coal ash, him. The guy literally pretended he was a cop. Right? There's video of him saying, I'm deputy dog. Right? He got removed from office for saying that he was deputy dog. And then he gets endorsed by the same guy. Are you telling me that there's not a reason that happened? Of course there is.
Yeah.
And if you can support that, then you're perfectly fine with the Republican Party, because look at all the people involved with the Republican Party. I will never get in bed with a snake, at least not knowing it's a snake. I just won't do it. That's why I did not go into business with that lady, Zhang, or whatever her name is. That's why I went back and I told all my friends, you need to get away from her. And they didn't listen. But that's the bottom line.
If she is a Chinese American, John, I'm wondering if she has any connections to other Chinese Americans that are within Osceola County, or
that was Homeland Security that he got arrested
for office in Osceola County.
They called him to Homeland Security.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, we got a meeting of sheriffs. Come here, all in your press uniform."
That was the funny thing, though, John. The media was there. They followed him to the FDLE building, and they were inside the FDLE building when he got cuffed. Yes. So
was it the media, or was it one of his own cops?
It was the media. It was actually Channel 9. So Channel 9
got. I know, Sharon
tipped.
Butler. Oh, wait. That's something else. Look, this is how BS Channel 9 uses. Okay, when no one knew, when they wrote a memo, a letter to the governor, and they asked Governor DeSantis to remove me from office for spilling all the beans on what a bunch of corrupt idiots they are.
They tipped off Channel 9.
They tipped off Channel 9. Yep. And who showed up? I think it was Sharon Butler.
Yep.
So she's got the line, right? She was sitting there in the front seat. She
was the one outside the FDLE building filming Marcos Lopez going in. And then when he was getting handcuffed, they had the exclusive of him getting handcuffed.
Listen, if you see Shannon Butler, you need to go the other way, because she got tipped off by the county commissioner. Okay? If you see Shannon Butler, just like turn around and go away, because I wouldn't be surprised. I've called this before, because Channel 9, yes, they take that ad money. Who knows what it is? She's got some relationship with them. They give her all the tips.
Yeah. Obviously, Channel 9 gets tipped off by a lot of local politicians and government officials. So
yes,
they have the inside track.
I wouldn't be surprised if she became, like, when they get rid of that corrupt PR person at the school district or whatever, then if she ends up getting that job, or somebody like that, or like it's something like that.
So the only thing I'll leave it at this, John. We've known Sherrif Lopez over the years. I can say for myself, he was always a very nice guy, and he didn't have to be. Especially to me, who was not well liked by the establishment politicians. I saw him in Publix like a couple of months ago and said hello. He shook my hand. I had no idea. I knew that he had many missteps as sheriff of Osceola County. I know he did a lot of things that were questionable. That the woman Nerva, the La Sharifa.
Yeah.
well,
she's
out of a job now anyway. But
dusting off her resume, like. Never mind. I was gonna say some really ugly things. I'm not gonna do it.
The posting of that poor child's photo. There was a number of things that he definitely did wrong.
He did
I had no idea that it was this big.
She was supposed to be, although she was like, I don't know, number 2 or number 3. I don't know what she was. She was supposed to be the PR person.
Yeah.
I told
she had
Marcos
her own
Lopez
office in the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I know, right? I told him a long time ago. I said, Sheriff, you really need a good PIO. You need knowing you need a really, and by the way, we blew past our watcher numbers.
Yeah.
I was like, you need a PIO. And he's like, oh, yeah. He blew me off. So him and I were never friends. He was really good friends with Melendez when I was friends with Melendez. And I was like, this guy, I don't know, Julius. The same thing, right? It's Spidey sense. Spidey sense. So, but he and I, he never acted friendly with me, right? But he was courteous. He was professional, but he was never like friendly, like never like, hey, call me if you ever need anything or anything, nothing like that, right?
Right.
He did was like he was very happy to take pictures with people and be like, come take a picture with me. Look, I got a badge. Take a picture. I'm the sheriff. Take a picture of me. I was like, I don't want your effing picture. What do you think? What am I gonna do with your picture? Yeah.
He was definitely a political sheriff and definitely all about marketing himself.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Well, one time he left me high and dry. I don't want to spend too much time. We're like way talking about this too long, but I'll tell you a story. So I was part of an HOA, thing, whatever. HOAs are horrendous in Florida, and I was in the same thing, HOA fight. And so, a lot of people are running. It was an election, and it's a big deal. People are very heated. People are making accusations. People are getting mad. And I was like, man, we need a cop here. We need a cop here because I'm afraid somebody's going to get into a fight.
Right.
And it was this close to happening. It was this close. And so I call the sheriff. I tell whatever. He tells me to call so-and-so. He calls, this was before the meeting. And he's like, oh, okay, we'll have somebody. Well, I'll put it up. I'll take care of it or whatever. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Again, not for me. Not asking for any favors. Whatever it is that you do, just do it.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we get to there that night. It's all kinds of, people, it's this close. The tension is very high. People are fighting. People are screaming, whatever. It's at a school. I was at Liberty High School. So I got two problems.
Surprise.
Number one, I'm afraid that people are going to get into a fight. Number two, I'm a school board member who loses control of a meeting that's happening in a school. So I call a sheriff. I was upset. I was like, where the F is the sheriff? You are supposed to send a sheriff here. Where's the deputy? What is going on? He never posted it. He never told anybody. Even though I had spoken to many people, they never put the job up. He left me high and dry, I think intentionally. And so I called pissed. I start yelling at him and I hang up on him. And if I remember correctly, it was him who came out. He was like, oh, you called me. You were all mad. I was in my underwear. I had to put my pants on to come here to this meeting. Literally, that's what he said to me. I was laughing. So I was like, okay, fine. At least you got out of bed. Man, I was like, come on. That's the wrong thing to do to somebody. But that's my only sheriff story with him. Otherwise, it was very cordial, but nothing. I don't know. He and I weren't best friends.
Yeah.
But he never was I can't say that he was a bad guy. And there are some people that loved him.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
a lot of people that
at the end of the
that's
day,
for sure. You could see that certain restaurant in town, one of my favorite restaurants, and I love the people that own it, the tavern. They put out a new charlatan burger.
What was the burger? What was on it?
It was just a
was the
regular
deal?
old cheeseburger, but they called it the charlatan burger. They had it at a special price.
So why didn't they like him?
I don't know. I think they were fans of somebody else who was running for sheriff. And I know many people were, I get that.
That's the problem. That's the problem. He was very alien. That was a very alienating race, right? Just like I was. But he tried not to be, but he couldn't help it. They did not want, there are some people that did not want him. They didn't want a Hispanic sheriff, some people, right? They didn't like him because that was such a brutal race against people that a lot of people loved, people like Fisher, right? A lot of people love Fisher, and they thought he would have been a great sheriff. I don't think that he would have been. And it was just a very contentious race. Sheriff's race.
The second time around, it was more because of things that had happened prior. And, there was favorites like Wiley Black. A lot of people liked Wiley
He would have been a
Black.
great sheriff.
I wish Wiley Black had run as a Republican.
If Wiley Black would have run as a Republican, he might have won.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people were telling. I don't know that Wiley
And
Black
I
was a
honestly
Republican.
believe that he is
for winning a race.
He is more conservative than his party affiliation leads you to believe. So
I don't know. I mean, he's more conservative than his party registration, but not, I don't think that he's like a traditional Republican guy either.
Right.
He's kind of down the middle.
You know what? When it comes to a constitutional officer, I just want them to be a constitutional officer.
Yeah, bingo.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this. We'll wrap it up with this. I hope Bacon is okay. No one has said a word about Bacon. No one has said a word about Bacon.
I didn't get it for a minute. Bacon's his dog.
Yeah. I'm concerned about Bacon. Bacon was a big highlight in a lot of Sherrif Lopez's videos. He would take Bacon around. I remember he brought
Bacon's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure Bacon's perfectly fine. Okay, so what's
I'm sure there'll be more coming.
We spoke that out of the Lopez issue.
All right, let's move on. I'm sure there's going to be more to come with that. That story is not going anywhere.
Wait. Let me take a minute. Forget it. We've all blown all kinds of control of the time and everything. Tom, you're the producer. It's your fault. So I'm going to say this. So I need your help. This new party, the America First Party of Florida, we need a mascot, and we've been fighting over it like crazy. So I'm going to tell you. So there are some people. Here are the animals that are up for. You know how the GOP has the elephant. Apparently, elephants like to be drunk and drive while they're drinking. And then you have the donkey, self-explanatory, an ass.
Absolutely.
Okay. And they either like ass or they are an ass. Now, the America First Party has these options. The American bison.
That's the one right there.
I love that.
That's it.
The mountain lion or panther.
No, the
It's a
Democrats already
coast-to-coast animal.
compromised that. Especially here in
F
Florida.
that. I mean, they don't have any control. They're an ass.
They've
So
already used it, so it's no
yeah.
good.
Okay. So we have it's an option regardless. We have the American eagle or the golden eagle, right?
No, it's
I'm
got
not
to
a
be an
fan.
American animal, Laura. It has to be an American animal, not the lion. The lion is not an American animal unless it's a mountain lion, right? I mean,
I don't like. I like the idea that be an American animal. I definitely don't want an animal from Africa, right? If I did, I would want the honey badger. That's the I don't know. So
that might be the other one, right? I mean, no.
Certainly I should have made that my logo.
I think the American bison's the one. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think American.
Yeah. Well, an eagle. There's a couple. I mean, an eagle's an people like the eagle one also. And then I'm trying to. Oh, the lion, the African lion. I think those are the 4 main ones so far.
No African
the grizzly bear.
lion, because
grizzly bear.
Grizzly bear.
Yeah, American
that's
grizzly
a good
bear.
one.
So
That's a good one.
listen. So, anyways, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, make a comment. Let me know what you like, what you would like to see as the logo for the America First Party of Florida. It's the initials for the party are AMF. Okay, America First Florida, and that we couldn't do AFP. It was already taken. So AMF. Okay,
There
so
we go.
remember that AMF when it goes to election.
All
Vote.
right.
Register to vote tonight. If you can, register to vote. You can go online, register to vote already. We're at the top of the drop-down list. All right, let's move on to the next
All right, let's get on to the next story. So Darren Soto is out there, John, sharing his concerns about the FEMA cuts.
Oh, wow.
Whether FEMA is prepared to respond, the agency is down thousands of workers after massive staff cuts, and a recent internal review says FEMA is not ready. News 6's Stephanie Rodriguez joins us live this morning. And Stephanie, you spoke with a Florida congressman about the potential changes Florida could face if FEMA changes continue.
Yeah, that's right, Crystal. While at the airport, I met with Representative Darren Soto about his concerns. He tells me that he thinks getting rid of FEMA is a boneheaded idea. I'm here in front of the Orange County Multicultural Center.
Coming from
where a lot of people
bonehead.
probably came after the hurricanes we had last season, seeking help from FEMA. So there's some concern that Representative Soto and other members of Congress have with these changes.
Beat me to it, Tom. Don't ever do that again.
FEMA lost a third of its staff after 1,800 employees took the Trump administration's buyout offer, and with another 200 probationary workers fired, they're shorthanded.
I'm deeply concerned about the attempted changes to FEMA.
9th District Congressman Darren Soto tells me he's worried the cuts will cost residents and the state time.
Obviously,
and money.
If a hurricane hits and we don't get individual
He should be more
relief
concerned with
granted,
his
it means
haircut,
that
honestly.
you're not going to get any assistance if you need temporary housing,
He
if you
got
need
that
a
haircut
loan
in
to be
Little
able to fix your house while you're waiting for the insurance company to pay out, which could be years. It means local governments don't get reimbursed for cleaning up both the roads and then, of course, the overtime for law enforcement and for firefighters and our first responders.
While Congress is reviewing the Trump administration's proposal to slash FEMA's budget, some Republicans, like Governor Ron DeSantis, say the agency should be dissolved.
We don't rely on
Soto's
FEMA.
terrible.
We do it. We lead. We got local partners. We got the best emergency management team from the local, state level, anywhere in the country, bar none.
But Soto doesn't think it's sustainable.
It is a boneheaded idea. Look, the states are very good at responding initially, but they don't have the money to fund the recovery.
Now, as you mentioned earlier this month, CBS News reported on an internal review of FEMA that said that the agency is not ready for this upcoming hurricane season. Reporting live in...
Not ready.
Well,
they've never been ready. Oh,
they've never been ready.
They've never been ready for anything. Look at what happened. You had the storm in Louisiana, Katrina. In Florida, they've never been great. They were skipping houses that had Trump signs. FEMA is not your savior. Okay, you know who your savior is? Let me break this to you. The people that you need to depend on are your neighbors. We saw that in North Carolina. Western North Carolina was destroyed. And who saved those people? Was it FEMA? No, it was each other. Communities came together to save each other, work for each other. I have friends up there. The guy who's the head of the Vets for Trump thing, who I got an endorsement from when I ran. He's out there. General Flynn. General Flynn is out there. They were working their butts off to try to make things happen there. It was not FEMA. FEMA could not make anything happen for anybody.
No.
And if there's a really big storm that destroys a community, that flattens Kissimmee, and you're waiting for FEMA to come and pull you out of your home, you're wasting your time. You know what you need to do is you need to check on your neighbors and make sure that you guys take care of each other. The government will eventually, at some point, come around. But if that's what your first line of defense is, that's terrible, 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 terrible planning on your part. Don't do it. Don't depend on the government to do it. Because the minute that they don't like you, they'll skip your house.
Yeah. Or they know that you're a Trump supporter. That's how they usually work.
Well, how many times did we discover? Look, all the storms in Puerto Rico. You're 100% right. All the storms in Puerto Rico where they had excuse me, I'm getting all worked up. You had all these warehouses full of water and toilet paper. Remember that?
Yep.
Like pallets and pallets and pallets and thousands of pallets, millions and millions of bottles of water that were wasted away that never got distributed. I mean, this is something that you need. That we need a serious version of FEMA that is actually built to respond to emergencies. FEMA's not. Why? Because bureaucracy kills everything.
Yeah. We have several votes for the Eagle, John. Multiple
I saw that.
votes for the Eagle.
That was not my vote. I did not want the Eagle. I wanted the Bison. I'm gonna have to. You guys are banned from watching the show.
One vote for the Bison besides myself. And then Angelica says an eagle carrying a donkey and an elephant in each claw.
All right, now you're talking my language. Okay, but if you said the Eagle, you've been banned from watching the show.
Oh man. All right. So moving on. We covered this when she first got in trouble, but guess what? She's back. Regina Hill has announced a re-election bid.
Boy, she does
Suspended
not
Orlando
stop,
Commissioner
does she?
Regina Hill announced that she is running for re-election for District 5.
Hill was suspended after being indicted on multiple felony charges, including elderly exploitation. West 2's Gail Pascal Brown spoke with Hill tonight, and the only other candidate so far running against her in November.
Regina Hill kicked off her re-election announcement for Orlando City District 5,
She
part of
sets
Westlakes in
fires
Orlando, surrounded
on
by
the homes
friends,
of the elderly.
family, and supporters.
We're back! I wanted to say that. We're back standing in front of this podium, but we never left.
Right now, I do believe that there has been a pause in District 5. And I want them to know that I've never left their side. I'm still been answering their calls. And we need real leadership in District 5.
I've been serving.
She's not even
I've
the commissioner.
enjoyed it.
No, she's not.
But I'd say as District 5 has had.
I tell you, she's
a
looking
breath
a
of
lot
fresh
better
air.
than that
Shan
mugshot
Rose,
that we
who's
put on
also
the
running
show
for the same
a
seat,
year ago.
has served as interim commissioner for District 5, replacing Regina Hill after Hill was suspended by the governor.
I would say if I was a betting person, Governor DeSantis did not want to remove me.
Well,
it was
place
others
that
that
bet.
called upon my removal. So I have no problem with Governor DeSantis.
Regina Hill is accused of elderly exploitation.
My personal issues has nothing to do with District 5. I've always continued to work for the people.
Oh, so
stand
the
for
elderly,
the people,
elderly
and
lady
deal
that
with
she's
the people,
accused of
regardless
ripping
of
off
what
was
going
not
on
a
with Regina Hill.
constituent of hers in her district. Because I mean, when you're trying to steal your constituents' homes, it's usually not applauded. And the Democrat circles, I guess that's exactly how you become a Democrat, right? You have to be a crook. You have to lie, cheat, steal, and then cut the genitals off of children. But I mean, this is just nuts. The fact that she's still running, and she says it.
Yeah.
My personal problems don't mean anything. I'm here to be the person that you rely on for governance, regardless of my felony charges.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
You know, it's sad. I feel bad for the people in that community because both their candidates suck. I mean, absolutely suck. So, but you know, that black community there, they deserve better than these two women who are just,
of course, who
completely
doesn't?
terrible. Completely.
I don't care what. Listen, you deserve. It doesn't matter what you are. You deserve better representation than somebody who takes advantage of the elderly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, allegedly, but nonetheless, man, that's. I wish I had that kind of gall. I mean, that's crazy. By the way, we're almost double what our previous record. We're blowing through our record numbers.
It's just insane. All right, so moving on. Experience Kissimmee, John.
Mm-hmm.
They aim to boost tourism using our tax dollars.
This story is outrageous. Outrageous.
Yes, using our tax dollars, they're going to promote Kissimmee through food.
Last month, Central Florida opened its latest themed park. We're talking about Epic, which means the demand to vacation in the area is only growing. And one local city looking for a way to cash in. News 6's Osceola County community correspondent Stephanie Rodriguez is live in Kissimmee. And Stephanie, the city is looking to position itself as more than just Orlando's neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And as they figure out what people are looking for in vacation right now, the tourism arm of Kissimmee is touting new hotels and the local food scene as tools to bring people to the area.
This week, Experience Kissimmee shared how it's planning to keep Kissimmee current.
We have the industry here, restaurants, hotels, attractions, and a lot of government officials to kind of update them on our marketing efforts and what we're doing and some future plans.
One of the ways they're trying to drive up visits is through gastro-tourism, a growing type of travel focused on food. Their first venture into this is with a new Latin food trail.
It's going to be actually an interactive map, and so it will show you where the restaurants are, and then it'll have some information about the restaurant, the chef.
There are also 2 hotels in the works right now in Osceola County to give people more options if they do choose to stay in Kissimmee.
Ovation Place and Evers Place are both starting out. So one at the far end of 192 and one right across on the corner of 192 and I-4.
The city hopes these offerings will attract
Chowdhury's
visitors who are
district.
increasingly looking to stretch their vacation dollar.
1 in 7 American travelers, they decided to adjust their travel plans. They are looking for more affordable destinations or destinations that have a little bit of a better value.
Now, the hotels that were mentioned in this story are a little bit away. They probably won't open until sometime in 2027. Reporting live in Kissimmee, Stephanie Rodriguez.
2027.
2027. And they're talking about these
Who's
hotels,
building this? The
hotels
company
that are
that
gonna
put the
be on
bricks in St. Cloud?
the far west side of Osceola County of Kissimmee, all the way out by Polk County by 27. That's where they do all this building. That's where they want tourism to go. God forbid you go to the east side of Kissimmee, because you're going to run into homeless. And I think the homeless have actually moved out towards the west side of Kissimmee too. They're not just in the east side, but every intersection you have multiple homeless people begging for your money. You have to be in fear for your life half the time, especially at night. Don't put your window down when you're in Kissimmee. And we've heard about the shootings in downtown Kissimmee. Giving money to Experience Kissimmee is such a mistake. I don't even know why that organization still exists. But anyway, go ahead, John.
These tourist dollars. Listen, this is like,
It's
I don't
such
know.
a
I think
waste
this is
of
like
money.
TDT.
Such a waste
This
of
is
money.
TDT money.
Yep.
I think, right? And listen, the guy who runs the CFHLA, the Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association, great guy. He's a big, phenomenal guy, great family guy, good guy, good man. And I'm sure that, they're responsible, and they have the lobbyists that are like pushing for these TDT dollars and whatever. And I see a value in TDT dollars. And I don't know 100%. I'm not like the world's expert on TDT dollars, but it's supposed to be about tourism related projects, advertising, infrastructure, event funding, things like that. And the fact that they're using, this is not infrastructure.
No,
right? This is not something that's going to improve the lives or the community here. It's not going to promote tourism.
No.
Nobody knows that a Spanish food restaurant's going to be down the street. We live in Kissimmee. Every other restaurant has Hispanic food.
Yes.
You need to build a project with Hispanic. And listen, all the people that live in Kissimmee who own restaurants where they're selling Hispanic food, Latin food, they're driving them to somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the families that would benefit from the tourist eating here in like downtown Kissimmee, for example, they're not bringing the money there. They're taking the money to chain restaurants and whatever, some project way out there. That's for Experience Kissimmee. That's not Kissimmee. Kissimmee's like right here.
Yeah.
And so they're not even, it's just none of the mission is being accomplished.
No. And it never has, John. It's never been accomplished. It's never
I know,
been
right? Because
close
it goes to that museum. Right? It goes to that military museum, right?
Yep, absolutely.
They
said Lord gave you niggas money.
Exactly. These are people that should not have gotten that
They said
money.
Lord gave you niggas money.
There we go.
This is the problem. Look how they're spending it. This money should have been spent on tourism.
Yep.
Like they were supposed to do things that were promoting Florida, not picking winners and losers in business, and certainly not spending government money on your government project.
And this is all the maps that they give out at those little tourist stands and stuff like that. Just, it's a waste of money.
Again.
Yeah. It's a waste of money.
They said Lord gave you niggas money.
Exactly. This is ridiculous. And just knowing, listen, we know how corrupt that is too. People get money from Kissimmee, Experience Kissimmee, for ways that you shouldn't get money. I personally heard from somebody who was on the receiving end of pressure for something. In order to do something, they get those money. You had to do this. And of course, they rolled over and,
a politician
this road.
says to Experience Kissimmee, don't give them money. they're not going to
Yeah.
give them money. That's just the way it's played
That's
here
right.
in Osceola County.
Yep.
So Trent says Eagle for the win, and then he said he's adding Honey Badger to the list. But I thought Eagle had the win already. Come on. Where's the Bison?
Let's go, Bison people. Let's go, Bison people. Come
What's
on.
going on?
I'm getting texts that have all kinds of things. I haven't even started to look.
Well,
but
the supervisor of elections here in Osceola County says that the number of inactive voters has increased, or is a drop. I'm sorry, a drop in active Osceola County voters. So there's
why did she hang an actual portrait in the supervisor elections that looked like her? That would create a critical loss of voter numbers.
Yeah. Well, you know, the funny thing, John, is in this report, you never see the actual supervisor of elections, or do you?
28,000 people, according to the Supervisor of Elections Office. They come out with a list every year tracking voters in Osceola County who have not participated in recent elections. Our Jordan Meade is joining us right now from outside of the Supervisor of Elections Office tonight. And Jordan, what exactly does it mean to become an...
Wait. Now, could it be that these inactive voters are being taken off the rolls because Mary Jane Arrington knows that somebody is watching the numbers, and then she won't be able to use these people who are being taken off the rolls who may have voted in past elections, even though they don't exist, or they're 100.
And we know that there were discrepancies in this past election between the mail-in ballots that were asked for and then the ones that were received.
Okay,
I would trust, at least from the preliminary numbers. Not we don't know from the final numbers because they didn't, divide them up in the final numbers. Between early day of and vote by mail.
Yes, 100%. And I like to say, do you trust it more or less than gas station sushi? Right. So I certainly trust it less than gas station sushi. I trust the elections more than Bill Helmick and Evan Power. So it's like in between the slug and the maggot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. It's those elections. Can someone please just do a little bit of investigation into Osceola County supervisor elections? They violated state law. Why wouldn't she have been removed?
Not once, but twice.
Twice. And then she went on TV and lied about it, got caught lying about it. Then went back on TV saying that she didn't lie about it. And then she went back on TV acknowledging that she had lied about it. I mean, that was probably the most shameful supervisor of elections behavior besides what we saw Alan Hayes saying during the last election cycle, right? Yeah. But I mean, even more, it was probably even worse than Alan Hayes.
Why is it we have so many terrible supervisors of elections here in the state?
And regardless of party. You know who I really like? Amy Pennick in Seminole County. I think Amy in Seminole County, I think she's going to be a good one. And I think that Seminole County can rest at ease with her there. Yeah. That's my thought. So I'm looking forward to seeing. You know who who I thought was great? Glenn Gilzine.
Yes, that's what I was about to say was Glenn Gilzine. I mean,
Glenn Gilzine did a great
job. Was the big discrepancies that we were seeing too, John, was between Osceola County and Orange County, those races that overlapped counties, we would see huge discrepancies where you would say that this person shouldn't win in Orange County, and they did. And they lost in Osceola County when they should have won in Osceola County. It was just very strange.
Everything was strange about Osceola elections. Yeah. Aside from the portrait that Mary Jane should put up. The bottom line is Glenn Gilzine, he really did it right. Within days, he was doing things that made sense, like camera so that you can watch the election process.
Yeah.
Hey, how about some of that election integrity? Like literally you had cameras on top of the machine so that they could watch you. You could see what was going on. And it was everybody. It wasn't just some unit in Tallahassee. It was me. I could log in and I could watch.
Yep.
Come on. Let's do that.
All right.
Inactive voter.
Good evening. Well, being inactive simply just means that you haven't been voting or you haven't been active over the last 4 years. And it also means that when the supervisor of elections offices reach out to you, you haven't responded. Now, you're still able to vote with that inactive status, but the office says it's better for you to be active so that you're up to date, especially ahead of those election seasons. So they say if you are inactive and you received any notifications about that, contact them now and make sure that you're up to date before elections begin.
Place ballots in here and it runs them through and tabulates everything. We have 4 machines like this.
Election season has been over for more than 6 months, but that doesn't mean that the work stops for people like Carrie Ewalt with the Supervisor of Elections Office in Osceola County.
There's a misconception that we just work 2 days every 2 years, and that's definitely not true.
She says there is a lot of behind-the-scenes work to uphold election integrity and prepare for future elections.
So throughout the
Election
year,
integrity,
we
that's
are
crazy that they say
testing
that.
equipment. We are conducting list maintenance.
That's
Prior
crazy
to an
that they say
election,
that.
every single piece of equipment that we use, including the equipment in this room, is tested for accuracy. All vote-by-mail ballots, when they come into our office, get scanned through this machine.
That includes creating an annual maintenance list of more than 214,000 registered voters in Osceola County. This year's list revealed a drop in 28,000 previously active voters who haven't contacted the office, responded to mail, or voted in the last 2 elections. They're now considered inactive.
You are still a registered voter, though. So at any time, you can come and vote. You could request a mail ballot. You can update your voter registration.
No major elections are coming up in Osceola County, yet Carrie says now is the time for people to check their voter status.
But it's a great idea to keep your record up to date throughout the year. We need to know when you've moved. We'd
She's
like
like,
to know
"You're
if you
still
changed your
registered.
signature.
Mary
Maybe
Jane
you've
will
got
submit your
married or
vote if
divorced
you
and your
don't."
name has changed.
Now, if you are an inactive voter and you just saw this, you still have time to reach out to the Supervisor of Elections office. You can do that by either calling them, going on their website, or even coming to the office in person. And they say it's better to handle this now because you won't be receiving mail from them moving forward if you're inactive. So they say reach out now, make sure everything is.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Reach out now. Exactly.
Reach
yeah.
out now, but we
Yeah,
didn't
reach
see
out now.
one sign of the actual supervisor of elections in that video, or did we, John? Because I have heard for a long time that
I don't know.
Kari Ewalt and one other woman in that office are truly the ones running that place.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, come on. I think I did see Mary Jane. I don't know if it was a crypt from King Tut's tomb or if it was her.
A ghost.
A mummy.
Because I think that's basically what you have. You have a person that is a ghost in that building because she's probably barely ever there, collects a huge 6-figure salary from that position. It's just mind-blowing to me that voters in Osceola County keep putting her back in the office. And I could be,
I don't know that they do.
I could be wrong that voters actually put her in office because she does supervise her own election. So
yeah, yep.
Makes no sense to me, but no sense at all. All right, John. So the city of Kissimmee, they went ahead and decided to add a property fee to fund an overhaul on the firefighters' schedule. I love when they
I do not like this story.
I love when they call it a fire assessment because the truth is it's not a fire assessment. That's a nice way of calling a tax something other than a tax.
Major changes are coming to the Kissimmee Fire Department. It's going to be the first department here in Central Florida to regularly give firefighters an extra day of rest.
Now, to pay for the changes, the city approved a plan that passes some of the cost to property owners. And Fox 35's Manny Martinez is live in Kissimmee tonight. So, Manny, the majority of the city leaders said the benefits here outweigh the cost.
And John, those costs are around $200 for a homeowner per property. The benefits, according to firefighters, is a work week that goes down from 56 hours to 42, closer to what you and I work. It was standing room only here tonight, and it was so packed, they were at capacity. Some people had to watch outside from a screen. The room full of firefighters and their families celebrated the changes coming to the Kissimmee Fire Department. City leaders approved moving firefighters to a new schedule, 24 hours on shift followed by 72 hours off. An extra day's rest for KFD firefighters without any kind of pay cut.
This is truly the best option to give us the best recovery, to give us the best time with our families, and to truly help the citizens of Kissimmee and public safety to be number one.
To do it, the city will have to hire 49 new firefighters. To pay for it, the city will impose a yearly fire assessment on property owners citywide. A base fee of $105 per property on top of a rate of 56 cents per every $1,000 of property improvements. That means the owners of homes like these will pay roughly $200 a year. The city estimates the assessment generates a little more than $6 million.
We keep growing as a community. Our city keeps expanding, and we just need to be ahead of it.
Congratulations, you guys have put us in a stranglehold with our taxes.
I want to understand why it's not already included in what we pay already for taxes.
The things that I've seen, the heartbreaking stories that my husband has spared me from, the emotional weight that they carry home. These are burdens most of us will never truly understand.
After public speakers on both sides, the final vote was 4-1. Commissioner Carlos Alvarez was the lone dissenter.
I think it's going to be a burden to renters, real estate folks and property owners.
KFD currently has a little more than 100 firefighters on staff.
I can't even speak.
Coincidentally, Tuesday's meeting kicked off with the swearing in of the department's 4 newest members. KFD will become the first department in Central Florida with a 24/72 schedule, something Fire Chief Jim Wall says will improve morale, boost recruitment, and promote retention, as 70% of the department has less than 10 years experience.
There,
keep them from going to other fire departments. So
those
we'll
were
have
young-looking
5-year, 10-year,
guys,
15-year
man.
firefighters.
They look like they were just
that benefits
right
the
out
whole
of high
citizen.
school.
When you have a 15-year firefighter, paramedic taking care of your family, then constantly having 2 or 3-year firefighters taking care of your family.
So the assessment is on next year's budget that starts October 1st. The fire department plans to make those 49 hires in 2 phases. And the fire chief says if all goes according to plan, the 49 new firefighters will hit the streets April 1st of next year. Live in Kissimmee tonight, Manny Martinez.
All right, I'm happy for the firefighters. That's great for them, and anything to make their lives better is awesome for everyone, because they are the ones who are coming to rescue people, to help people in a bad situation. What I don't like is that the city of Kissimmee is going to charge residents a tax to make this happen. They don't have the money, John. I mean, city of Kissimmee doesn't have the money to fund this.
Well, for one, I think the whole assessment, that's BS. That's a straight up lie. This is a tax, added taxes, added property taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. And my question, and I'm not an expert, I want to acknowledge, number one, that I'm not an expert on the budget of the city of Kissimmee, so I don't know. I agree. I love the schedule for the firefighters. First of all, I don't work 42 hours. Who works 42 hours? This is the United States of America. You're
I
always
wish
working.
I worked 42 hours.
Yeah, nobody's working 40 hours. 40 hours is like a full time. It's the label that says you're 40, you're a full-time guy, right? Americans always work more than their regular hours. Maybe not the ones that are 20 years old, but these guys will. These 20-year-olds will.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for it. I think it's great. You're on. It's like this is a service to the community. I love the schedule. Yes, I think that's great. How to pay for it. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to pay for it. You pay for it. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is property taxes and home ownership values are increased. The value of homes are increased. Therefore, the property taxes that we pay increase. Why isn't that increase enough? You're hiring 49 more. That it should cover it. It should. And if not, then I think that case needs to be made from a financial perspective. Now, I didn't go to the meeting. I didn't see the presentation. Maybe it did. But you would think that the news would have said they proved that they don't have the money for this. Now, you have money because you had a Pride Fest where you spent our taxpayer money having a whole bunch of drag queens parade themselves around town. So if you can have drag queens parading around town and use the city to sponsor it,
Or
but
buy
on flat
property,
day, you don't have
John.
nothing.
Or buy property across Kissimmee.
Yeah. You also, we just talked about in the prep, you guys bought a $15 million piece of property. I mean, so the money's there. You just don't want to spend it on that. It's not the money that you have is not good enough for firefighters, but it's good enough to be for the drag queens. But our money's good enough for the firefighters. Don't like it at all. I have not been convinced that the city needs that. I think that there's a case to be made for sure. 100% I agree with the firefighter schedule. I agree with hiring more of them. Pay them more. Firefighter, you'd be surprised how little firefighters make. You can almost make as much at McDonald's as you do firefighting. And that's ridiculous. These guys should be making $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
But the city should not be allowed to buy a $15 million property if they can't afford to pay the firefighters what they deserve.
Yep. That's it right there, John. That's it right there. That was immediately what comes to mind is when I heard this and they're going to charge a tax. I'm like, didn't they just buy this like $15 million piece of property? It's like,
so they $15 million piece of property with drag queens parading around it. And that's how they're spending our taxpayer dollars, but they can't afford to pay for this firefighter initiative. Yeah, you got the money.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, John. So finally, the last story of the night. This is it. This is the last one. All right. St. Cloud, the city of St. Cloud. Residents are concerned, John, because they're getting letters in the mail about a data breach.
Personal information at risk is an alarming issue for many across the country. But what if the city you live in had a data breach? That's what happened in St. Cloud. News 6 St. Cloud community correspondent Laverne McGee shows us how they're responding.
I think it's very bad, but it's happening all over the U.S. So, everywhere you go, you have to be careful with your information and cyber.
Nelson Colon is a disabled veteran who came to get his plates renewed at St. Cloud City Hall. He says he's not surprised to hear about the city's data breach, but is very concerned. And Tony Massive came to get tags for her car, but hadn't heard about the breach.
The younger people trust this system. The older people have worked without computers, so we're very aware of what can happen, and how it can be, they can steal your identity.
The city of St. Cloud has updated their cyber incident notice on their website, letting people know they sent out notices to those they believe have had their information compromised. It also says their investigation determined that between March 17, 2024 and March 25, 2024, an unauthorized actor...
You know how many times our parents have bought land in Nigeria? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. It is always very young people and old people who get these viruses that get these, phone calls and they believe them. They're not very aware. Anyway,
that Generation X is the best
I
generation.
rewinded this a little bit. I rewinded this video just a little bit because I want you to pay attention to this next part because it's very important. What they're about to say.
Fine, I'll be quiet, Tom.
No. I mean, both of us, anyway.
Notice on their website, letting people know they've sent out notices to those they believe have had their information compromised. It also says their investigation determined that between March 17, 2024 and March 25, 2024, an unauthorized actor gained access to certain systems and obtained certain information. They brought in cybersecurity specialists to monitor suspicious activity in their computers. Things like people's names, addresses, social security numbers, date of birth, and driver's license numbers are possibly at risk.
Yep, and pay attention to that one more time. Let me bring it back there. We talked about this on the Florida show a year ago, John.
Yep.
We talked about that this happened.
Notice on their website, letting people know they've sent out notices to those they believe have had their information compromised. It also says their investigation determined that between March 17,
2024 and March 25th, 2024. You can go back on YouTube. You can go back on Facebook. Any of the different channels where we broadcast this show, We
That time
talked
it was
about
probably only
this
Facebook.
a year ago when this happened.
Oh no, that's 2024.
I think Facebook does end up deleting the videos eventually, but we talked about this when this happened back in March of last year. And the city of St. Cloud said they were going to let people know as soon as possible if their information had
Which is a
gone
year
out.
later.
And a year later, 1 year later, they are letting the residents know. My parents got a letter in the mail from the city of St. Cloud for my father that his information was in that data breach. But a year later, and my father's information did get out there. They did have a problem. Thankfully, they got that problem resolved. But a year, John, you wait a year to let everyone know
crazy.
that you guys lost a bunch of information. Just really sad.
That is crazy. I mean, listen, are you surprised though? Their security is just a build in St. Cloud. You know, I mean, who's their security? Cathcart security? This is ridiculous. The fact that a year, it allowed you to go on a year not knowing that your information is being sold to some Chinese guy on the black web. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And we had it here. We knew about it. We were reporting on it.
Yep.
So I mean, I hope that they're not just sending out letters. I hope that they're accepting liability for any of the potential damage.
Yeah, I think
They
that
normally they offer
that anyone that has had an issue because of this should actually reach out and contact a lawyer because this is ridiculous. You wait a year to send out to people and let them know that you might have had your data gone out.
You can't be surprised. This is the city of St. Cloud. They're trying to poison their own residents with that water. All right, they're sending
water
brown
bills.
water. Say again.
Now it's the water bills. Everyone's complaining about the bills.
So they're sending brown water into your house to poison your kid and destroy your appliances. Is it any wonder that they lost your private information? Of course not. This is like right down there. You know, it's in their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Listen,
I tell you
everybody,
that
like and share the show really quick because we've had more viewers than we have ever had. We got viewers on all the different channels, and we appreciate it very much. We love you. We're very appreciative. Share it. Let's a couple more. Just a couple more. This is going to be the new record. So
yeah, I mean,
a
just
couple
a few
times.
more. Honestly, that would be it. But yes, John, the city of
Oh,
St. Cloud,
wow.
and yep, there it goes. All right,
A
so we had quite
gigantic
a few
jump.
more. There we go.
Wow. Wow, that was a
Awesome.
lot of you that shared it. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
That was it. That was the last story, right?
That was the last story, but
Okay,
I'm just
so
going to
now
leave
let
it
me
at
plug.
this.
How
Chris
long
Robertson,
have we been on the air? This is like
the
been a
mayor of
marathon
St.
show.
Cloud. We have been on for not even 2 hours, so we're under the 2-hour mark.
We've been longer. If this is the
we've
first time
been
you're watching
longer
the
than
show,
that.
we've gone longer.
I would say that Mayor Robertson has had a tough first 6 months in office as the mayor of St. Cloud, and it's going to get tougher. It's going to get tougher on June 12th because he's got a big decision to make as far as whether he's going to go ahead with that proclamation or not. And Scott Maxwell in the Orlando Sentinel has already challenged Mayor Robertson about, well, actually the whole St. Cloud City Council on whether they're going to proclaim June as Pride Month or not.
The only reason that's tough is because you're a coward. Otherwise, your convictions will drive your decision, and it's easy.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're a coward, if you have no convictions, if the only thing you care about is people liking you so that you can get votes, then it might be hard. Otherwise, it's not hard.
No, it's not
Doing
hard.
the right
It's
thing
not
is hard.
You know, they
Right?
went ahead and had a workshop where they decided this was after the May 7th meeting where several residents went and confronted the city council about the Pride event out at Hastings Ranch or the former Hastings Ranch. And they had this workshop, I believe, on May 20th, where they decided that they were going to hold off on proclamations and the proclamation process until the June 12th meeting where they will vote on how they will go forward with proclamations, and which basically nixed them proclaiming June as Pride Month. But the Orlando Sentinel and Scott Maxwell have picked up on this. They are challenging the St. Cloud City Council to go ahead on June 12th and prove that it's not about pride and it's not about the LGBTQ agenda, and that it was truly just about reviewing the proclamation process. So Scott Maxwell is watching. He's expecting them to go ahead and proclaim June as Pride Month on June 12th. And if they don't, I guess they'll hear about it from him and
I don't know.
others
I
on
think
the left.
St. Cloud residents are going to be. Now, listen, the thing is that you could have 2 or 3 LGBT people on that city council.
Yes, yes.
Right?
You know, we
That's
have
reasonable.
one that is out. He is, and
There's one that's out in the open.
yeah,
He's okay, and
and they're
he's not a
suspected.
bad guy, but there's 2 suspected.
Now,
So, I mean, this is the ultimate treachery. They don't want to be honest,
yeah.
right? They're all in the closet.
I mean,
So
it's
we'll
funny
see.
because in 2024 they had no problem proclaiming June as Pride Month in the city of St. Cloud, and two of the Christian conservative Republicans, one being a pastor himself, went ahead and had no problem proclaiming it as Pride Month last year.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see what they do. So that'll be interesting footage for.
that'll be on the next Florida show, by the way. No.
Yeah.
Probably.
Listen, go if you're inclined. That was it, right? That was it,
Yeah,
Tom.
that's it.
Okay, so listen, if you are so inclined, please go online, go to registertovoteflorida.gov. Registertovoteflorida.gov. You can change your party if you're so inclined. If you're a Republican who's sick of the corruption, sick of them messing with your REC election, sick of them picking your primary candidates and the people who win instead of allowing the community to decide who the leaders will be, sign up. America First Party of Florida is the first one on the toggle box. It's the first one. You click on the little box after you put in all your personal information. You click on the box, and it's the first one at the very top. Thank you. Everybody share one last time before we close out. Share one time. Hit like, please. Oh, vote very quickly if you want to for Bison on the America First Party of Florida mascot.
But was it bison, eagle, lion, or honey badger?
All right. Thank you. God bless you. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Well, I mean, I was entertained, to be honest.
I think it is rich beyond measure. The fact that a school board member that has tens of millions of dollars of conflict of interest before this board has the courage to come up here and talk about anyone's behavior. If anyone should be ashamed of themselves, sir, it should be you.
And I'm in favor of you being able to speak your mind, no matter what. That's how we get. Remember when we were kids, right? And you had a problem with somebody, and then your dad would kick you out to go fight with that kid, and then you shake hands, then you go home, and then you become friends. Discussed when they're trying to, take this word and give it meaning that it doesn't have. Our entire country needs to go through a fasting. You see all of these new age hippies, right? They're constantly fasting. They're doing starvation diets, or they won't eat for this. What is it called? Like some kind of
intermittent fasting. It's not just us, and not just fans of President Trump, MAGA Republicans. We're not the only ones